Hello guys, Growth is here. Today we're going to analyze the newly released Alien Earth trailer. The trailer actually reveals some really crazy details, including direct connections to the engineer's planet and David's research, hinting that we might revisit the engineer's storyline. We're also introduced to new, deadly organisms never seen before in the franchise, which are likely the result of black-goo mutations, so let's break down everything in order. For context, the Alien Earth series is set in the year 2120, just 2 years before the events of the original Alien and 15 years after Alien Covenant. So here's the setup and the official synopsis of the series. In the year 2120, the Earth is governed by 5 corporations: Prodigy, Weyland-Yutani, Lynch, Dynamic, and Threshold. In this corporate era, cyborgs and synthetics exist alongside humans. But the game is changed when the wunderkind founder and CEO of Prodigy Corporation unlocks a new technological advancement: hybrids. The first hybrid prototype, named Wendy, marks a new dawn in the race for immortality. After Weyland-Yutani's spaceship collides into Prodigy City, Wendy and the other hybrids encounter mysterious life forms, more terrifying than anyone could have ever imagined. In the first shot, we see the corridors of a ship strikingly similar to the Nostromo mining craft, pointing to the older designs of the Weyland-Yutani space vessels. The trailer then introduces Wendy, a young girl who will be the main protagonist of the series. It appears that the consciousness of this terminally ill girl has been transferred into the synthetic body, an experimental procedure never attempted before. Every previous model was fully synthetic, their minds engineered by Weyland-Yutani. David's model, for example, in Prometheus, was considered too human, prompting the creation of a more subservient, roboticized Walter we met in Covenant. As the girl dies, we can see that her consciousness is imprinted and moved into the new body. The CEO of Prodigy Corp tells the girl that she is special, which may explain why the company is determined to preserve her mind in a synthetic body. However, since the corporation owns the synthetic shell while the consciousness still belongs to its original human Wendy, a conflict is almost inevitable, since in the world completely run by corporations, Wendy will likely belong to Prodigy Corp. So we might see some sort of a rebellion similar to David's revolt. However, what's really interesting is that the reason Prodigy might want to preserve Wendy's consciousness is because she may possess some psychic abilities. We later see a shot of Child's drawing of a red-eyed xenomorph, hinting that Wendy has seen the creature in her dreams and could have a special connection to it. A similar concept appears in the comics about the xenomorph invasion of Earth, where people had nightmares with red-eyed aliens. In general, the xenomorph itself is more than a mere biological monster. In the original Alien movie of 1979, it was depicted almost as a Lovecraftian entity bordering on the paranormal, unstoppable and paralyzing its victims with sheer terror. So this psychic element of the creature might be explored in the series. Next in the trailer, we arrive at Prodigy City, seemingly entirely owned and ran by a corporation. Actually a plausible future, given how in real life megacorporations keep swallowing smaller companies. So the idea of entire cities run by corporate powers is not that far-fetched. Then the ship shown in the teaser trailers crashes into the city. Although its interior looks very Nostromo-like, the exterior differs, marking it as a scientific expedition sent to secure these dangerous species revealed later, some of which have direct connections to the engineer planet. Apparently, everyone on board was killed by the xenomorph except this one survivor who recounts the disaster. Interestingly, Prodigy is a rival corporation to Weyland-Yutani, and the ship crashed into their jurisdiction. So Prodigy likely tries to exploit everything it can salvage from the rival's ship, setting up a huge corporate conflict. Then we see the creatures the company collected from the darkest corners of the universe, including 2 alien eggs and a few deadly plants that look extremely similar to the mutated fauna on the engineer planet after it was exposed to the black-goo. So the main Easter egg from the trailer is these 2 alien eggs that raise the big question of where they came from. It could be that they came from LV-426, Planet 4, or somewhere else, and it's really interesting where they will take the story here. but judging by their size, the eggs likely came from the engineer planet, Planet 4, as they're extremely similar to the ones seen in the David's lab. David recreated alien eggs from Shaw's body parts. He actually found a fossilized egg somewhere in the engineer city, and because it was dead, he reverse engineered it. The Alien Covenant novelization says that David discovered fossilized eggs whose design helped him reverse engineer his own eggs. And we can actually see this exact ancient egg in the Alien Covenant movie. It's not in the focus of the camera, however, we can clearly see it in the background, and David even touches it and opens it up. In addition, David's eggs along with the LV-426 eggs were way larger than the eggs in the trailer, and the only comparable egg in the franchise is the one David found on the engineer planet. So it's highly likely that Weyland-Yutani recovered the eggs from a space jockey ship or another engineer's site. Hopefully the series won't just hand-wave this by claiming the eggs were found on an asteroid, especially since the events are set just 2 years before the original Alien. So I'm sure the location of where the eggs came from will be a huge reveal in the series. Another huge piece of evidence that Weyland-Yutani visited the engineer planet is other dangerous specimens. Some of them are flesh-eating plants. As we saw in Alien Covenant, David dropped the black-goo on the engineer planet, and most of the flora mutated and many plants inherited some xenomorph genes, becoming highly aggressive and seeking to either implant xenomorph-like monsters or simply kill any living organism they encounter. David documented many dangerous plants he found on the engineer planet in his sketches, but Alien Covenant was supposed to have other deadly vegetation, and we can see them on concept art boards. If we look at the Alien Covenant concept arts of the deadly plants from the engineer planet, they are extremely similar to what we see in the trailer. There is also a deleted Alien Covenant Blu-ray scene where David records and transmits all of his research to Weyland-Yutani. And since that message was sent in 2104, the company had plenty of time to receive it and dispatch a ship to investigate, given its extraordinary interest in extraterrestrial life. Another huge reveal in the trailer is the jellyfish-like monster called Ocellus, and it looks like it was already studied, so we can read the description on the screen. It can grow or retract at will. The tentacles carry extraordinary strength and are built to climb into and dislodge the eyes of other living organisms. Once replaced in the eye socket, Ocellus takes over the ocular pathway to the brain, overriding the neurotransmissions throughout the body. More study needed to gauge inherent intelligence, though Ocellus has shown remarkable problem-solving skills at a near-human measure. This parasite is both fascinating and terrifying. It's not as horrifying as a facehugger, but still extremely disturbing. There's a similar, really disturbing real-life organism called Toxoplasma gondii, which invades the human brain and can alter behavior, making people more violent and prone to risky behavior. This real-life parasite, Toxoplasma, originates in a cat's intestines and can reproduce only there. Because of this, Toxoplasma mostly infects rats and rewrites their behavior to make them attracted to cats. This way, a rat actually chases cats, ensuring the parasite returns to the feline gut. Rats infected with Toxoplasma actually seek out cats and virtually volunteer to be eaten, which is just mind-blowing. Another really interesting detail is that the parasite Ocellus may be related to the trilobite we saw in Prometheus, as both of them have 7 tentacles. We know that the black-goo can mutate simple and non-violent organisms into parasitic and aggressive creatures, so it's not hard to imagine that all these specimens began as harmless life forms that were later changed by the black-goo substance. Then we see the infamous xenomorph, which looks fantastic. The cinematography suggests that the series will be visually stunning, and the creature's design appears faithful to earlier films, giving me cautious optimism about the show. According to other reports, there will be only one xenomorph, which apparently emerges while the ship is still in space, likely causing the crash. Then in the trailer's final shot, Wendy engages the xenomorph in close combat, something no ordinary human could do because of the creature's overwhelming strength and its paralyzing psychic aura. Yet Wendy's synthetic muscles and possibly unique resistance to paralyzing fear let her fight the xenomorph directly. Also, the creature in the gestation clip released earlier can actually be this exact xenomorph, since it appears smaller and slightly different from the xenomorphs we saw previously. Initially, I wasn't particularly excited about all these different creatures, since I preferred the series to focus on the xenomorph or the engineer storyline. However, the trailer actually looks promising and looks like the series will introduce some unique and exciting ideas in the franchise. And since these deadly plants were likely recovered from the engineer planet, the show might actually explore the engineer storyline, or in the future devote an entire season purely to it, because there's just so much engineer mythology and lore that it's nearly impossible to cover in a single movie. Thank you guys for watching. What are your thoughts about the trailer, and did I miss any crucial details? Leave your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to join the Patreon for extra support. Also, like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel for more content. My name is Croft and I'll see you in the next video.